and then going down to everybody. Well, that's quite a stage. That's what I thought. So organizer who approached me to ask whether I prefer sitting here or standing, I mostly say that, oh yeah, I'm going to sit. So that's it's more welcoming and more comfortable for me. Well, it's been 6 years since my last visit, my last participation in IEC together. Yes, things have been a lot changed. IEC being more prosperous with most renowned speakers ever. And Thai MOOC officially launched. And Professor Tuang Chinta, Michael, he's not here yet, but he's been engaged. And congratulations. And I am being an age that I need my reading glasses. Well, since it is mid-afternoon, and yes, my bioenergetics shouting inside that, yeah, this is time for wrapping up today. Take a rest after a short and compact presentation. Yes, I'll do my best. What I'm going to talk about today is not that something new. It is something that we already knew, but wanted to avoid thinking or mentioning it about, because it does not really promise us a bright big picture. We talked about MOOCs, open education, micro-credentials, digital badges, micro-masters, and so forth so far until this afternoon. Why? Why did we talk about all those things? Because it is a topic, it is topics. Because it is a topic of this conference? Well, it is. But also, it is the way of improving higher education in order to meet more dynamic needs of stakeholders of higher education. Because our speakers, other speakers were and are presenting how to change, what to go for, I will talk about why we need to change in higher education. I'm going to focus on why, not how or what. The challenges, social trends, digital transformation, possible opportunities we need to grab firmly, and finally, what Korean universities and government is doing in order to make universities and colleges more dynamic and flexible to meet the need of ever-changing society. Oops. Can you see on the screen? Yes. So the challenges. What challenges has been in the higher education environment, higher education setting? Well, most of us, we already heard of affordability, technology issues, diversity, inclusiveness, retention and completeness, and employment preparedness. Yes, affordability. Tuition goes higher and higher. Living costs with fees regarding tuition increases more than we can afford. Some people, or I sometimes say that everything increases except for my paycheck. Yes, probably your parents or you can tell your daughter and son that, yes, it's more than something that I can afford. But if I cannot afford it, are you not sending your sons and daughters to the higher universities and college? No. And if the student enrollment are decreasing, is higher education is closing or shut down? No. So what we can do is that making more affordable educational path, alternative path, could come with more way to deliver the knowledge and experience to students. Well, as far as I remember, when I first entered the university, I paid 800,000 Korean won, that currency, not a dollar, per semester. And it becomes like 180,000 won, Korean currency per year. But now, after 30 more years later, that tuition goes up 4 times more than I paid for. And according to the educational statistics in the United States, the average tuition was about $10,000 per year, but it goes up to 28,000 by year 2023, 3 times more. How can we afford it? And how can we escape from this challenge, or how can we move forward based on this challenge and grab some opportunities? The second challenge is technology. Yes, every morning we wake up with new digital applications, new digital technologies. Of course, those technologies, some of them have been already existed, but we didn't know. For example, Zoom. Have you ever heard Zoom before pandemic? Nope. It has been in the business before pandemic, but nobody knows. Nobody knew. And even I didn't know. But it emerges into the surface with the pandemic, with the environmental, with social changes. And now everyone talks about NFT, non-fungible token. Not in the investment, also in the educational setting. In addition, all around us are talking about blockchain. A few years ago, I didn't even know what blockchain. I didn't even think of the word blockchain, but everyone talks about it. Technology influences every way of our life, not only ordinary life, but also higher education, especially. Why? Because it can help delivering educational purpose to students, and it can help interacting among faculty and students, or students and students, for better understanding of the knowledge and experience. The third challenge is diversity and inclusion. Yes, more and more in the university setting, in a higher education setting, not in higher education, but all the educational setting, all in the society, we are not living in only one monographic ethnicity in the world. Even not in our country, it's a global time, global world. You are traveling, not physical, but you're traveling online and meeting everybody from every other background. So, need to hire faculty, staff with a diverse background. That means faculty and staff will understand what students with a diverse background needs, and make them maximize their potential for their educational purpose. And the fourth, retention and completeness. Yes, even way before the pandemic, students in the undergraduate in United States, they often not graduate within the 4 year, mostly like 6 years. So we say that, oh yeah, 5th grade and 6th grade in a college, that's common sense. How can we make students complete their degrees in a certain period of time and retention rate more higher? Let's think about it. And finally, employability. With the job market becoming increasingly competitive, yes, we all know that students need to be equipped with skills that make them work ready upon graduation. So, while I'm preparing for this presentation, I was curious. Yes, in Korea, tertiary education enrollment is decreasing every year. And I assume that it's decreasing in the world. But what in the Thailand? And I saw that the same graph as the world in tertiary education decreases, the Thailand and Korea all the same. And those challenges are still affecting higher education right now. It's been somewhat years, but we are not sure how to overcome in certain period of time. But we are trying. We are for sure that we are trying to overcome those challenges and grab more bright opportunity for educational purpose in higher education. What are the areas that still experiencing challenges in the higher education? Of course, staffing, faculty and staff. Operations. Higher education operations, it's a complex body of operations, right? Work locations. Yes, faculty teaches at home. Students learn at home. How are they getting connect or interact each other? Fourth, technology. What are the appropriate technology to improve teaching and learning in higher education? There are certainly a lot of digital technologies are coming and disappearing. And what do we need to select? And what do we need to integrate into our higher education setting? That's also one thing. And the course planning. Yes, course offerings, students are becoming more and more demanding that flexibility in their course offerings. And finally, the enrollment. How do we in a higher education setting overcome with decreasing enrollment? Yes, population is decreasing. So we understand that maybe education or enrollment rate in the tertiary education might decrease. But that does not mean that higher education is not going to shut down, right? So how can we overcome? Well, as I told you before, I'm not going to give you like bright picture of the future or one fits to all answer. What I'm going to talk about today is like our homework in order to make our higher education for providing better education for variety need in the social aspects. Oops. So let's talk about the social trends. There are a lot of macro trends. For example, economic trends, cultural trends, political trends. But besides social trends, I'm going to talk about social trends. Why? Because Higher education takes place within particular social context, as researchers said, and the learning experiences are shaped and colored by the people interacting each other and building relationships. That means teaching and learning in higher education is a fundamentally social practices. That's why we need to understand it. So, what has been the social trends around higher education? First of all, the flexibility. The second, equity and inclusiveness. And the third one is micro-credentials. Yes, I was going to talk about a lot with the micro-credentials. I love to, but in the morning, professor from Keio University, he talked about micro-credentials a lot. And professor from Hangzhou University who gave him questions and comments, she also talked about a lot with the micro-credentials. And I'm sure tomorrow there will be another speaker who is going to talk about the micro-credentials. So I'm not going over micro-credentials really in deep. So first of all, the social trends, flexibility and convenience. Yes. Students' demand for flexible and convenient learning modality is increasing ever after past 3 years of pandemic experience. After those experiences, students as well as faculty also, they cannot go back to pre-pandemic, right? Students and faculty happened to know that, well, I don't even have to go to the class to teach. I don't even have to go to the class to listen or to learn what the professor says. Also, there are something like, oh, working at home, that's more productive. I don't even imagine it. I didn't even imagine it before the pandemic, right? So students want more flexibility and convenience when it comes to how their education is delivered. Just for individual courses and degree programs on the whole, as you can see at the graph, there's certainly half online and half face-to-face, that means hybrid, or someone calls it high flex, yes. And mostly online, you can see after the pandemic, the required result goes up more after pandemic with the hybrid or high flex and mostly online or completely online. So I was wondering when I saw that students are demanding more flexibility on their modality, course modality or learning modality. So I was wondering what's modality that students are thinking of right now, or what professors are defining these modalities. Well, like 15 or 20 years ago, when we talked about blended learning, then we came up with the same situation. So what are you going to define? What is the 100% online? And what will be the blended learning? As the same, researchers are defining, or one of the articles at EDUCAUSE published last year saying that in higher education setting, there are still a lot of discussions regarding exactly what the modality means. So I'm going to introduce one of the definitions that I think that define mostly the learning spectrum is that the learning spectrum is divided by two types, distance learning and in-person learning. The distance learning includes offline distance learning. It's like a 30 or 40 years then. Maybe some of you who were born 60s or 50s may remember it, that faculty members or school send you the course materials by mail, not email, by mail. Then you will study and you will learn something and then you will take an exam. And online learning, we all know that online learning. And in-person learning means in-person technology-supported learning and in-person non-digital learning. Well, we are all familiar with in-person technology-supported learning. That means that students are coming to the class and see the electronic board, and then all faculty member or professor say that, let's bring about your device. Let's open your device and turn to or goes to what pages and do your homework or do your assignments and submit it, or making a comment to what other students do. Something like that, right? But the important thing at the modality is a hybrid or high flex. Yes, it sounds similar, hybrid, blended, high flex. But the only thing that high flex is distinctive is that high flex only make students more selective. The blended learning, if professor design his course as a blended, then every student should follow that blended way of learning. The student doesn't have any freedom to choose. He or she would like to learn online or blended or mixture of online and blended, but they cannot do. But at the high flex, in the same course, if a professor gives a way of online, blended, and offline with the digital technology, then student can choose any of it and move from any of the way to learn at the course. So high flex is the only one that is more student-centered way of delivering way of delivering the education. And equitable and inclusive teaching and learning, as I mentioned before, there are more and more need of diverse background, faculty, students, staff, and most of all, there needs inclusive curriculum also. Not just people, but with the curriculum. You will let your student understand what are their circumstances, what surrounded them are now. For example, it was like 10 years ago, I fortunately have a 1-year leave from my company, so that I went to the States, United States. I went to University of Oregon. I brought all my family there. And at that moment, my daughter was like 4th grade, elementary school. And when I took her to the class for the first time, I was so surprised that about 20 students in one class, and then more than half is Hispanic background. Of course, state of Oregon is on the west side of United States, and the western side, there are a lot of Hispanic background people who are crossing their border from the South American countries to the United States for better life, right? And well, I was surprised when I see those population, but mostly I was more surprised than that is that when she came with her textbook, and that her textbook, one of the chapter is going to talk about why they are crossing the border. And how many are crossing the border? What's the history? Why are they doing? And how they become an American in the United States? That's the way that students understand that they are living with diverse backgrounds. Not just tell them, you have to understand. But it's a natural way to get them understand what's the difference or what's the environment surrounding them. Micro-credentials. Yes, I'm not going to mention a lot with the micro-credentials, but only thing is that, yes, in America, there was a survey. Probably if you ask me later, then I will let you know the reference, but I cannot remember exact reference. But the thing is that there was a survey poll asking people that if you are losing your job, would you like to go for a degree? Or would you like to go for a non-degree or non-traditional way of getting knowledge or upskilling or reskilling your experience? Then more than 80% are saying that they are going for non-traditional because it's short of the period, it's more inexpensive, it's more geared toward their actual job, actual workforce. In that point, micro-credentials are gaining momentum and maturity at that time. And micro-credentials, well, as professor from KU University in the morning, he said that there are like two tracks in higher education: that macro, a traditional way of developing curriculum, and micro-credential way of developing a curriculum. And then there should be a quality assurance between them. But the thing is that how to interconnect, how to make micro-credentials are being stackable into a degree or a traditional degree. Then those conversations, those dialogues has to be done with a lot of that has to be done. So, because of all the challenges, social trends, higher education knows, the people like us in a higher education knows that it's a time to change. We are required to change. Now, how can we change? There comes digital transformation. Well, when first I heard of digital transformation, I was somewhat like curious. Well, we have been digitized all the time for those last 30 years. What else we need to do more? What's the difference between the activities with the digital technologies that we've done for, and what's the difference between those activities and digital transformation, right? So here comes it. I didn't even know when I see this explanation that I was confused with digitization and digital transformation. So the phase goes like this. First of all, you need to digitize information, right? You have to digitize this analog information so that this analog information can be readable online. If it can be readable, then also it has a metadata, or it has to be searchable, right? So that people can search the information online and then read it. So here, that comes organizing information. So first phase is digitization. The second phase, Process automation and streamlining process. For example, well, I can see a lot of you may understand the library of the 80s and 70s. Okay, imagine that there is a library. We all know what library is. Library store information, not even digital, non-digital, right? So at first, libraries in the 80s or before 80s, if libraries need information, then they buy a book, right? They buy a book or they buy a journal, the printed one, and then store into their library. The first phase, digitize information. That means that stored printed material should be digitized. And for being searchable, those materials should be indexed and with the appropriate metadata schemes. And the second stage is digitalization. So first, when you are in the librarian, when you buy a book, when you would like to buy a book, first of all, you go to the acquisition department and then tell the librarian and the acquisition department that we need this book. Buy this book for me. Now, buy this book for our library. Then the acquisition library is going to the market and then they acquire the book and then get the book to me to utilize as an information, right? So before digitalization, there are certainly like barriers. Acquisition department, cataloging department, even at the circulation department. So the automatic process, that means that when you need a book to buy, then from the acquisition to the circulation, it goes automatically processed until it reaches to the patron, that patron who needs to utilize that information. And those processes should be streamlined. That means that it's the digitalization phases. And then finally, digital transformation. Well, frankly speaking, I cannot really imagine what that picture might be. Okay, you wear a Google Glass and you enter the library. You are taking History 101, but you had a really lower grade on your midterm. At that point, you're wearing a glass and you enter the university library, and then finally, the library show onto your Google Glass that, well, you are the lower grade in your history class. You go to the section 900, and where to get to? You follow the way that I show you on your glass. Well, those kind of images are like digitally transform the library. I'm not sure. So digitally transformed higher education. We are not sure yet, but it is something that we have never experienced before, but it will change. It will enhance our higher education more and more to meet the ever-changing society. Yes, I'm not. Yes. And then the digital transformation, why we need it? Because it promises more accessibility, and it promises efficiency, and it promises data-driven insights. And in addition, the innovation at the at the new possibilities for educational innovation. So, how can you proceed to the digital transformation in your higher education? Well, there should be a lot of ways to approach, but one of the things that we could recommend you is that there should be three phases of digital transformation that you could apply to your higher education. The first one is learn what it is. The second one is analyze your readiness to apply digital transformation. That means a plan. And finally, applying those techniques, those technologies to your higher education and evaluating it for the better future. Those three phases are recommended to apply digital transformation. So why are doing this digital transformation? Because we would like to grab more and more promising opportunities for teaching and learning in higher education. That's why we talked about MOOCs. We talked about open education, micro-credentials, micro-masters, or other things. Online, blended learning, personalized learning, lifelong learning, and so forth. So for the Korean cases, well, in Korea, we are getting aware more and more that digital transformation or changes should be done at the higher education setting. So, well, every individual universities are doing somewhat for the changes, but at the government level, what should be done? So, the Korean government started to do deregulatory reformation with their laws and regulations first. In the year 2021, before then, only cyber university can confirm the online degree. Every 4-year colleges or universities cannot confer online degrees at all before year 2021. But that barrier has been removed from year 2021. And from year 2023, as for the micro-credentials comes with this deregulatory reform. Well, imagine that you are at the college, you are at the university students. You have to take more than like 140 or 150 credit hours to get to graduation, right? Among those 150 credits, there should be something like 60 credits for your major, your specialty. But for, let me show you the example. You are a history major. Imagine that you are a history major. In history, we are saying that there is Western history, which includes all the Western European countries and the United States, and Asian history, which covers China, Japan, and all other East Asian countries. And finally, in Korea, we have a Korean history. So we have 3 ways. As a history major students, you have to have more than 60 hours, 60 credits for these 3. Evenly, or whatever your preferences are. But even you are taking more than like 20 hours of Chinese history, in your transcript or in your transcript doesn't say that you are a specialty in Chinese history. It just says that you are graduating with a degree in a history major. That's all. But with the law, with this law, which enable universities create small chunks of the courses inside the major, that it comes to it. It's a possibility. It has a possibility to come to a micro credential, and it can be stackable to their degrees later. It's a really a momentum for our law, our education law. And then the other one is that from year 2023, there is going to be a removal. Well, in higher education setting, there are like a departments, right? Mostly the departments like chemistry department, the engineering department, humanities department, social sciences department, or something like that. And then according to their departments, there are classes and there will be a major or there will be more courses or something like that. But from year 2003, those kind of barriers that differentiate all departments are removed. So this year, our new government raises like $75 million per year to support innovative university. And one of the proposal that innovative university project is that it's a Handong University case in Korea. The proposal says that Handong University will remove all the barriers which differentiate departments. So students can enter the university and then they can build their major based on those small chunks of credentials or credentials for their major, for their graduation. That's one of the really big surprise and really big change in our educational setting, because you know that higher education is one of the institutions, it's a really rigid institution that cannot change rapidly, right? And one of the projects that Korean government is funding is that Digital Innovation and Collaboration University projects. It started in year 2021 and it goes up to year 2026. And what it does is that it built a consortium based on emerging or cutting edge digital technologies, and then it developed the courses for those technologies and share those courses among or inside those consortiums. Each consortiums have 4 to 7 universities. So those courses are shared by inside a consortium. But the problem is, when I say that inside a consortium, that means that beyond the consortium, you cannot share the courses. That's one of the homework that this project should solve after then. So far, by the end of year 2022, there have been 500 courses in the field of cutting-edge digital technologies such as AI, you see, big data, intelligence, semiconductors, and so forth. If anybody in the college, any students in the college can benefit from those cutting-edge courses, it will be really great for their workforce, their knowledge, for proceeding further their research. And one of the cyber universities, in Korea, there are 20 cyber universities so far. And then one of the cyber universities, which is called Seoul Cyber University, and it developed a program which is called OnFlex. It may be similar to HiFlex, right? That means that Seoul Cyber University developed a program not only in military technology department, that the student in that field can choose whatever modality that they wanted to take for the courses. That means that Seoul Cyber University applied a high-flex way of modality into that department. And I wish Seoul Cyber University will apply high-flex that modality way to all other departments so that every student in Seoul Cyber University can benefit from it. And in KMOOC, there is something called the MedJob program. That means that it means short-term job competency qualification programs tailored to industry needs. Well, courses have been developed by the collaboration between industry and the university. And then whoever took that courses will have advantage for whenever he or she is being hired by that company. Of course, it's not really promising it exactly, yes, you are hired for my company because you took that courses. We are not 100% sure, but the thing is that it certainly has an advantage for him or her who took the courses and who applied for that workforce, that job industry. And finally, yes, as I told you before, I'm not going to give you like one fits-to-all answer or one perfect answer or one bright big picture, but I would like you with me to consider and think of what will be our best way and what will be a good way to make our higher education more flexible and more dynamics. Well, MOOCs are one of the ways to make our higher education more flexible. Micro-credentials are also one of the way. And also one of the way that I would like to introduce is that ASEAN Cyber University. Well, why is that? ASEAN Cyber University, as for the affordability, it gives all the classes for free. Technology. This platform is going to adapt all new digital technologies based on open API. Of course, it doesn't support 100% all the new digital technologies yet, but it is trying to. Third, inclusiveness. Of course, it has courses developed by all 10 ASEAN countries. Then how could we be more inclusive than this, right? And then completion, and finally the employability. Well, though we are not make you 100% for sure, but this is also the way for flexible and dynamic in a higher education setting. So consider this is one of the way, and then keep track with us that how ASEAN Cyber University platform is getting better and better. Well, I'm almost done. I'm sure that you heard of this before. Are you going to be a fast follower, or would you like to be a first mover? Well, let's get to the way, even the road is not taken yet. That means that you're getting a first mover, even though it's an unexpected way that you've never been before. But this is the way that you could change positively, and you could change actively in all the way, including higher education. Well, thank you so much for today.
Thank you very
And
much.
감사합니다.
감사합니다. Thank you very much, Miss Lee Sooji. Thank you so much. She left us the question for us to answer, and she's breaking the barrier for us to know that why the higher education needs to be changed. Thank you for sharing.